points. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, tell us your name, where you're from, and how old you are.
I'm Paul. I was born in Auburn, Alabama, but I've lived all over, most recently from Kosciuszko, Mississippi, now in Columbus. I'm 32.
Sweet. All right. Do you have a sobriety date, and what is your drug of choice?
My sobriety date is September 24th, 2021, so I got about 9 months right now. Drug of choice is heroin, opioids generally, but mostly heroin. You know.
Have you used anything else in your lifetime?
I've used everything. Everything, yeah.
So can you describe your history of drug use, where it started, and how it progressed?
Well, let's see. Okay. I mean, it started with pot and alcohol in high school, partying with my friends and stuff. But I got a taste for the opioids pretty early on. I used to skateboard, and I took that pretty seriously. And I fell and got hurt really bad one time, and I had to have knee surgery and everything, ACL replacement, MCL reconstruction, and I got prescribed a lot of Percocet from the doctor, probably overprescribed. Looking back on it,
Painkiller.
Yeah, like oxycodone. It was around the tail end of like the Oxycontin pandemic stuff. You know, doctors were still overprescribing, but kind of getting out of it. You know, and I'm not gonna say that's related. I don't know. It's only speculation, but I do believe I was overprescribed. Okay. You know, looking back on it, I had prescription to very heavy narcotics for a year straight after the surgery, going through therapy, and that seems excessive, you know. But it's not so much that got me started. I got my taste. That was not the first time I tried them. I think I had tried Loratabs or something before, just, you know, randomly one night partying with my friends, and I liked it, but I didn't think anything of it, you know. But because of that experience, when I did get that prescription, you know, I knew that they could produce a feeling I liked. So having access to them as much as I did, you know, I could abuse them sometimes, and then sometimes not take them, you know, and then come to the end of the month and my pill count would add up. My mom wouldn't expect anything, because I was 17, 18 at this time when this happened, you know, so I was still living at home. But that was my first experience with opioids. But I won't say like the addiction started then, because when they stopped giving me that prescription, I you know, didn't have any withdrawals. I didn't think anything of it, you know. Went on living life. It was probably about, you know, I really don't know. It was several months after I had gotten done with rehabilitation for my knee and everything that I got back into skating, and I fell and I broke my collarbone really badly. And I had to have surgery on that. Like bone popped through the skin, all that lovely stuff. And I had to have surgery for that, and went to the same sports clinic in Jackson, Mississippi. A different doctor, though, specialized shoulder surgery rather than knee surgery. And I got prescribed the same level of narcotics again. And I did start to use them in a way at that point that I would experience withdrawals, but I'm kind of naive, you know. And I also thought, you know, I don't want to say people like us, but I know with me, like, there's an unconscious notion of indestructibility with myself, especially when I was younger. Yeah. You know, I was immortal, so I was like, I'm not gonna get addicted. That wouldn't happen to me. You know, it can't happen to me. We all think that, I think, at some point in time. But I did start experiencing withdrawals when I'd run out of my medication then, and I didn't really know what it was, being young and naive then. It wasn't until later down the line I realized that's what I was experiencing. But at this point in time, I was going into college and stuff and starting to experiment with other things. And I don't know, my drug use just escalated from there throughout. But
you did this and finished degrees.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, going into college, I did have a habit with opioids. But, you know, it's kind of like one of those things where, like, oh, it's prescribed to me, so I wasn't overly worried about it. My mom was suspicious, you know. I remember looking back, she was suspicious. But she didn't really, I don't want to say it like this, but I guess she couldn't like really prove it, you know, because I wasn't living at home. I was in school at in Hattiesburg at University of Southern Mississippi at the time, but she had her suspicions.
So
but
like if there's a functioning alcoholic, is there a functioning opioid user?
I think if an opioid addict can have ready access to their drugs, you know, without having to go to extreme measures to get them, then yeah, absolutely. For a while, anyway, they can maintain functionality within society, you know. But
so when did they take over and like that took a turn?
Man, I mean, now looking back on it, hindsight being 2020, like I would say like it was an issue then, you know, but I had such a different outlook on the world and what I was wrapped up with in my social life at the time that like, you know, that's what other people were doing. So it didn't seem abnormal. You know, I'm in college, I'm partying, it's fine, it's whatever, you know. But it wasn't until I think the end of my college career that I personally started to consider that I had a problem, you know, and that was just because I'd gone to the extreme of like let me back up a little bit. I had, you know, stopped like when that prescription ran out after the second surgery. I then started, you know, getting opioids like on the street and stuff, but I don't know. It's just like it wasn't until I went to rehab the first time and developed a victim sort of mentality about my addiction that it really took off. Okay. You know, I don't know if that makes any sense, but and it's everything is really convoluted in that time to say. It's hard to say exactly when certain incremental moments happened or whatever as far as my addiction getting worse, but I mean, I just know, I'll put it this way, I was like full on and like 100% and wanted to be the best at everything, and that was even doing drugs. I wanted to, you know, be the best drug user. I wanted to be able to use the most, drink the most, you know, yada yada, that kind of stuff. And I just know it was probably around my sophomore year that I don't really remember how it transitioned into it, but I do. I started working at this restaurant, and I had a girlfriend at the time. She was working at the same restaurant, and I met a guy. And at this time, I was just using a lot of like party drugs. I had moved away from the pills, and they were becoming harder to find, you know, or really expensive. But I started to use a lot of like ecstasy and LSD and stuff. I was going to a lot of music festivals. I got into that scene. But when I started working at this restaurant, one of the servers there, we hit it off and realized that we both liked these things. So I started to get Roxy's from him, like the blues, 30 milligrams. Opioid users are going to know what I'm talking about. And he introduced me to the needle, you know, and I was like, no, I'll never do that. Like, I'll never do that. But he eventually, I think this guy, he just wanted somebody to share in his misery with him when I look back on it, you know. But he eventually coaxed me into trying, and I was like, I'll try it, but I won't ever do it again, you know. And I mean, I fell in love with it, you know. I was like, okay, so I immediately,
From the first one.
Oh yeah, dude. I think the first thing I did IV was not actually those Roxys I'd been getting from him. I think it was morphine, and morphine has a real unique rush to it compared to some other opioids when it's injected. It's a real tingly, like, yeah, it's very absolute euphoria, absolute rush euphoria, but it almost feels if so good, like it aches, it hurts when it hits you, and like I was like, oh my god, you know, I never had anything hit me like that before. So yeah, I was in love with it, but you know, so because I had said I'll never use a needle, you know, whatever, that went from okay, how can I keep doing this and not let anybody know I'm doing it, because I was ashamed of it, you know. So I hid it best I could, and you know, I started shooting up regularly those pills, but those pills were like $1 a milligram. So it's like $30 a pill. And my tolerance, I have a naturally high tolerance to everything, I found out. So my tolerance started high. But anyway, I mean, it's just like I was spending $90 on a single high, get 3 of those things. And like that was impossible to sustain. So when the financial stuff came in, I think things really started to go downhill, and the financial aspect and the needle, too, because that's a whole different addiction within itself. Yeah, it's just, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
Well, here, give me this.
Okay.
So, takes a hold. You're at this point needle a few other things. At this point, what did you lose?
At this point is when, things were escalating. I could not hide my drug abuse anymore. A lot of it was out in the open because it was socially acceptable to do most of the things I was doing, but the underlying issues I hid from everybody, the intravenous drug use and stuff, I couldn't hide that anymore, with like track marks and my girlfriend getting really suspicious, unexplainable financial situations I was finding myself in, asking to borrow money from my parents all the time. And it was around this time I went to rehab the first time. This was 2013. And I hadn't lost anything yet, but this is when this kicked off. I got in a car wreck, and I got in a car wreck because I was like strung out, because it wasn't very long after this guy had introduced me to the needle, and I started to use it, that I was like, okay, I wonder what else you can shoot up and see what that feels like, So I literally Googled or looked on like Arrowhead or Blue Light or something online, some drugs form. It's like, can you shoot up cocaine? Because I loved cocaine too.
Yeah.
And obviously I found out you could. And that's a whole different monster in itself. So I started doing that along with like opioids, and I got a connection to Dilaudid, which is a really strong narcotic too. And
Did you ever shoot alcohol? I've heard people have done that.
No, I didn't do that. That wasn't something I was interested in trying. Like, alcohol is in my story. It's constantly present, but it was not really, it wasn't the problem.
Sure.
I mean, it was all a problem. It was the collective was a problem. But it was when I started shooting cocaine. I got really strung out shooting cocaine and Dilaudid for like 2 days straight, right? I had just gotten my refund from applying for my student loans and stuff, and I was actually and I had this little card to get the cash out, but there's only one ATM on campus in the library. I could use that to get cash on that card or whatever. So I was driving there like 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd been up like 2 days or whatever, and I just rear-ended this van. I don't really remember how it happened. The wreck wasn't too bad. I didn't really get hurt, but it did screw my car up, and so I had to have the car get towed, and my girlfriend came and picked me up. I hadn't seen her in like 2 days. I don't really remember why. I mean, I was holed up in my bedroom doing drugs, but she took me to the hospital, and and I wasn't really hurt, mind you, but like I was in a car wreck, so the doctor was quick to prescribe me pain meds, and he gave me a prescription just like Loratab 10s or something, and my girlfriend was like, you don't really need to get those filled. You don't need them. You seem fine. I was like, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. Just in case I want to. I convinced her to take me to Walgreens to go get it filled. And I went back to her house that night. She was, going to take care of me and yada, yada. I was in a car wreck. But as soon as we get home, prescription, I take like 8 of them at one time. My tolerance is through the roof. And that really freaked her out. Like, I remember seeing the look on her face. She's like, what the hell? And I think it was like within the next 2 days, I come home from work one afternoon, and it's her and my roommate, and my parents are sitting there on the couch, intervention thing. She had called them, and I didn't know, but it was towards the end of semester, and my parents had already like talked to like the school and found out that it would be cool if I took like I wouldn't get too many penalties if I took like a medical leave, and I went to rehab, and I don't know what they told them, but they worked it out where I could like not finish that semester, and not get too many penalties. So, and to salvage the relationship with my girlfriend, they talked me into going to rehab. So I went to a Stevens Center down in Pascagoula at the time, and I wasn't convinced I was an addict at the time. But while I was in rehab there, I learned some information that could help me like abuse that perspective with my loved ones, if that makes any sense. Like I adopted a really
This is the victim mindset.
yeah, I adopted a really selective like victimology. Like because when I got out, like I did want to stay clean, or I didn't. I don't know. I just know I wanted to, because when I got out, I moved in with my girlfriend and went back to Hattiesburg, and it was like the summer. And next semester hadn't started, so I was just trying to get back up. But I know that I needed to quit using to stay with my girlfriend, even though she used drugs and stuff, but it was just like partying, and it was more social. Anyway, while I was staying with her, I did initially want to quit using, I think, but again, it was just to salvage the relationship. I didn't personally for myself want to quit using at the time.
How did your family take it? What was the relationship like with them over the next few years?
Well, see, that was the first time I went to rehab. I didn't go to rehab again for almost 10 years. And my drug use pretty much picked back up right off the bat. I had intermittent times of like, slowing down and or getting worse or whatever. But I was living in Hattiesburg. My family's in Kosciuszko. So I was able to kind of like, keep them hidden.
Fly under the radar.
Yeah. And, but it was, when I would mess up, like something would happen, that's when I'm trying to get back to that victim mindset I took. I would then say, oh, I'm an addict, I can't help it kind of thing. Knowing full well I was making these choices, but I was like, no, feel sorry for me because I can't help it kind of thing. And I knew I was full of shit. But, and that's about all I got out of my first time in rehab was that power to make people feel bad for me when I made bad choices, So I guess my mom was probably incidentally, looking at it like that, my biggest enabler, because she loves me. She loves me to no end. But it took a long time before she could like adopt the need. She could implement the usage of tough love in our relationship for me to do the things I needed to do. So I never wanted to take advantage of her, but I did. Yeah, for the longest time, if I'd mess up in Hattiesburg, things got too rough, I'd run home to Kosciuszko, give me a place. So it's she probably knew more than she would say, or that I realized, but I don't know, man. It's just somehow in that time, I did manage to graduate college, and after I graduated college, I had no direction. I was working like 2 jobs my last semester, and I had a active heroin habit at the time. I had shifted into heroin because I'd found a connection for it, and it was so much cheaper and everything. And I don't know, man. That period of time, those next 2 years in college before I graduated, was just a series of like in and out of relationships. I'd start them and I'd be like kind of on my stable. Like there was one point in time I tried to quit using by putting myself on like a kratom maintenance program or whatever, and that did okay with that for a little bit. Like I would get in a relationship when things were going good, and then like inevitably I'd mess something up, and then I'd end up living with that girl or whatever, and then. At that point, being with him 24/7, I couldn't really hide that my addiction had spiraled again, whatever, and blow up, and I'd do something to end that relationship. And so it was a lot of that for those years, but I I guess I'd been out of school for 2 years, and I was working as a restaurant manager in Hattiesburg, and I was dating another girl. The relationship was going really well, and this was my first experience with Suboxone. And I didn't want to quit partying or whatever, but I wanted to quit using opioids, right? And so I got on Suboxone, and I still was living the same kind of lifestyle, but I was not using IVing opioids and stuff like that. But
because you had Suboxone, or just
because the Suboxone helped me, not do that. I mean, I had just, substituted at that point in time, and I wasn't trying to get any better. I was just trying to, not be a slave to the opioids, but still live the same lifestyle, And I went, I think it was like 2 years, and I got my life together pretty good because I'm all over the place here.
Okay.
But I got my life together pretty good. I had gone from living with one girlfriend, getting kicked out. I got my own place again, and in the time, I think a few months after I'd been on Suboxone and got settled on my own place, I met this girl, and we stayed together for like 2 years. I told her, I was upfront with her about my addiction issues and stuff, and told her what was going on, and she accepted it, was cool with it. But towards the end of that relationship, the clinic I was going to get my Suboxone, I'm not really sure what happened, honestly, but they got like shut down, and so I didn't have access to my prescription anymore, and that freaked me out. So I tried to taper myself off at that point in time with Suboxone. I had like half of a month's prescription left, and I was also selling those, so I didn't have the full thing. But I did try to taper myself down because I knew the withdrawals were going to be pretty bad. And once I ran out, I wasn't able to do that successfully, so I went back to using pretty quickly. And I think within 3 months of like losing my access to Suboxone, and at that point in time, I had lost my girlfriend, lost my job, I lost my house, and I was just kind of destitute then. So I ran back to Kosciuszko at that point in time to live with Mom, and that's when things like really took off, and that's when things really took off, man, for me there. When I got back to Kosciuszko, I don't know. This is I'm just gonna overview the next few years up until me coming to Columbus the first time, staying at the last house a few years ago, last house on the block. It was just a series of homelessness and just the horrible things that come along with, being a really serious drug addict, man. Stealing, pain and suffering, hurting people, not wanting to, just a lot of misery. And I say it like that because it's really hard for me to specify those years of my life, like when certain things happened and when, things took a turn. It's hard to say, man.
Well, okay, let's go to this point. What has made you make a change now? What's going right this time?
What's going right this time is the last time I tried to get clean, I think a little bit of me really wanted to do it, and to be able to do that, you have to want it for yourself. Like, I think anybody that knows this at all knows that. But I don't think I had really hit my bottom yet, or had an experience that I would have later that's got me where I am now. But that experience really put in perspective like the fear of death, my own life expiring, and so being truly fearful of dying and was really the turning point for me this time. This is why things are different. This is why I did not care to argue against inconsistencies or hypocrisies within any sort of program or whatever. It's where I put the combative side of myself, the intellectual side of myself, to the side, and was like, just do what these people say. And
that's an incredible advice right there, by the way. Just saying.
Yeah, that's what I had to do because I wanted to fight everything. I mean, I grew up. My dad taught me to question everything. I have a degree in journalism. I just learned to be objective and question, and I never take anything for face value. You know, and I want to prove that I want to disprove things. I want to be like, well, tell people why this is wrong. You know, and I never accept any anything wholesome in my own life. Really, I realized I was like that. Like, I just wanted to say religion's dumb. I wanted to fight that. This won't work because this is just whatever, you know. And I just put that side. I shelved that side of myself, and I was like, look, man, you don't want to die. This is working for people. Just like do what they say this time, and you know, don't fight it, you know. But it was a self desire to get clean, but really it was for real the first time. Like I had a fear of death, you know. I had a real vision that, like, if I keep doing this, I will die, and that was what was different this time.
What tools are you using now to stay on that road?
I got involved with the 12-step program with Alcoholics Anonymous, CA, Cocaine's Anonymous, which we have around here. And I also decided, kind of reluctantly in the beginning, to get back on the medicated assisted treatment program, to try Suboxone again. And I did not have a good experience with that in the past.
Can you
know.
Explain that, like, for maybe folks that don't know what that is? How does that work?
Well, there's several. It depends on the situation you're in going into to starting that. You know, there's several different ways. So, but for me, the way this works is I went to when I decided to go back to rehab, back 9 months ago, I did not have it in my mind that I was going to get back on Suboxone. I didn't know that was an option, you know. I'd been to rehab twice before, but the idea of using Suboxone MAT, like, that was not something that I thought that I would find in a facility in Mississippi, you know. So I wasn't looking for it. And I was also kind of against it, honestly, because of how the horrible experience I had coming off of it the last time, you know. But in getting into rehab this time, I actually went through all the withdrawals before I decided to get on the Suboxone, because I got on it as a means to maintain this into the future, rather than just, like, not deal with the withdrawals. You know, there's different varieties in which you can do. People can get on Suboxone for a brief period of time just to maybe mitigate the withdrawals, and then do a quick taper, and they don't stay on it very long. And then there's long-term maintenance, you know, 2 years and more, which I think is more indicative of the medicated assisted treatment idea. But how it works for me this time is I chose to get on it because the last time I tried to get sober, I had no assistance.
Right.
It's like Suboxone or methadone or any of that stuff. And I was trying to work the 12-step program, but I was really distracted with post-acute withdrawal symptoms from the opioid abuse for so long. You know, cravings, mood swings, depression, all that stuff that, you know, opioid addicts know you deal with in the beginning of getting clean. And also with, you know, the attitude I had at the time, I was not able to work a program to its fullest. I couldn't get my head around it, you know. And this time, I saw, talking to counselors and stuff, and just thinking about my own thinking on my own, I saw that I could use it to my benefit if it were to be done correctly, because it is a big choice, you know. Because
under a doctor. And
yeah,
counselors.
yes, and counselors, working a program, yada yada, which is way different than the last time I was on it years ago, you know. Like, so my idea was that I can get on the Suboxone, and that can help with like cravings and all the post-acute withdrawal stuff I would have to contend with psychologically that could distract me from getting on board with the 12-step program. You know, I could focus in early recovery and not be distracted with cravings, all that stuff, like I said, on getting my head around a life program for me that works and getting back on my feet. And later down the line, once I've gotten my footing in a program, to then probably taper off the Suboxone, you know, which is my intent, you know, after a couple years. I don't want to be on it forever, but there's also nothing wrong with that if that's what people need, you know. I know there's a stigma with it and everything, but
you're living a life.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the thing, you know. It's like in recovery communities, and it's getting better. I've noticed it's getting better, but there is a stigma to people being on that. Like, you're not really sober, you know. And I think that comes down to where, like, opioid addiction is a little bit different, and maybe even a little bit more extreme in some cases, as far as like the physical aspect of the addiction goes.
Well, that's true. I mean, the numbers say...
compared to like other addictions, you know, that physical aspect with opioids is a little bit stronger, if not considerably stronger, you know. And it's just the damage that opioids do to your body and brain. Like, they just change your brain chemistry. They mess with your metabolism. It's hard to get healthy again, and it takes a long time. And I found in my experience it was hard for me to be overly concerned with what I needed to do to get my life on track, because I couldn't get past like that first point of like not being obsessed with the drug still, you know. And Suboxone, I feel for me, has given me a chance to get my life on the right track, you know, and not. It's just.
So what have you managed now that you're on this track? What have you gained?
I've gained so much. Where I've gained the most, I'm even still reluctant to say it, man. But I've gained a life, and I mean, I credit it all through working the 12-step program, man. I've gained a spiritual life, not really a religious one, that I never thought that I could concede to in the past. But it's just the desperation, the willingness was there this time for a change, and I have a wholesomeness, a soundness, a resolve, consistency in my life that I don't know if I've ever had, you know, right now. And I know that's I've only been clean for 9 months, but there's just a realness to what I'm experiencing now that I didn't know I could, since like addiction had taken over my life, you know. And I probably didn't. Prior to that, I was too young to really, you know, grasp any idea of spiritual life or whatever. You know, it's just, my life has just taken so many turns, man. But I've gained this goes back to my combativeness and my stuff with religion, but I've gained a spiritual foothold, man, that like I didn't know I'd be capable of. And that's helped me gain a purpose again, you know, a drive, my ambition. You know, I had lost all those bigger, better parts of myself in addiction, and
you said it once to me that purpose creates happiness. Do you think that is true?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember in which context I said that. I do remember saying it though, but I do I do believe that. I mean, I believe more so that happiness is a choice, but you have to put yourself in a position to be able to make that choice first, you know, and having a purpose, being fulfilled, I think is the first step to that for sure. Because if you're just floating listless out there in like the ether, like, I mean, you have no direction, no cause, no value, like nothing. Like, I mean, what's the point of anything, you know?
Okay. Let's speed up to. What is some advice you might have? Somebody suffering in addiction, wants to get sober, maybe doesn't know how.
Man, it's hard. It's hard to say. I mean, if someone's at that point, I mean, the best advice I have, I mean, is simple. Like, it's just like swallow whatever pride or fear you have and ask for help. There's somebody out there that can get you there, you know, and put you in touch with the people that you need to be in touch with, you know. But if you're completely clueless, that's absolutely the first thing you have to do.
That's
ask for help.
Really, victory hands. Good stuff. Anything else? Anything just on the top of Paul's brain? You got a big one. So.
Yeah, and it's got me all over the place. It's hard to make sense of all this right now. I was trying to, you know, keep it coherent, but I'm not good in situations like this. But I'm trying. It's all good. This is for other people, right?
Fantastic.
Man, just, I guess I'll say one thing, and it's the stigma with Suboxone and stuff. You know, like it's not for everybody, and you know, you really, like, it's a harm reduction thing there, you know, like I do believe that it's the best route for some, and it's not the route for others. And I think if, with everything going on out there with the opioid epidemic and so many people dying and fentanyl being so prevalent now, you know, we'll say up until the last 2 years of my use, I had never OD'd before. I had managed not to do that. It wasn't until my friend, like one of my best friends, passed away, you know, from an overdose, and then within the preceding 3 months, using the same drugs I've been using, but that started to get cut with fentanyl. I presume. I don't know what happened. I wasn't using any more, any less. I OD'd 3 times in 2 months, actually. And one of those times I'd not be here if the friends I was with did not have Narcan, you know. And that's scary. Like, you know, you realize, like, I'm going to die if I keep doing this, you know. And Suboxone for me, it's just, it's a certainty that, like, for right now, when I'm still a novice in recovery, it gives me the resolve to get through this early point, you know. It keeps me away from cravings, it keeps me away from desires, and if I were, help me God, to actually relapse, the way the medicine works, it's preventative against me overdosing at that point. It's not going to allow that to happen. Hopefully, you know, hopefully. I mean, nothing's impossible. But I do just, you know, I just want to say, man, if there's somebody in someone's recovery community that is trying to get the help they need and get the footing they need in a program, and they're on, you know, Suboxone, don't dissuade that in them. Let them do what they need to do, to not die, essentially. So
That all we got?
I think so.